Good afternoon. Notice of a public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a regular meeting on March 7, 2023 at 5 p.m. in the City Commission chambers located on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall, Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Mayor, it is now 5:04. You may call the meeting to order.
Call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Next item is invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pastor, welcome.
Thank you very much. Let's all stand for the prayer and please remain standing afterwards for the pledge. Father God, once again, we thank you so much for the many blessings we have here in the city of Brownsville. Lord, we thank you for our right of self-governments. And Lord, I ask you to lead and guide each of us. Help us to be humble enough to realize you understand each issue better than we do. Help us each to look for you for guidance. And Lord, we ask you to draw our hearts, minds, and obedience to your word, to the Bible, so that we can receive the other blessings that we need right now, such as rain. And Lord, we ask you to give us the rain that we need and the amounts that we need. Lord, we ask you to lead and guide all of our leaders from Washington, D.C. to Austin to right here in Brownsville. Help each of us to receive the revelation we need for you, for the issues that we're dealing with today, especially in this meeting. Lead our mayor, our commissioners, and everyone who is presenting anything for the very best for the city of Brownsville, to your glory. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. And now we'll have a short moment of silence where we can all add our prayers to what has already been spoken. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Now the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
The next item we have proclamations. The first proclamation is recognizing and honoring the bravery and efforts of the Brownsville police officers.
Who do we have from the officers here today? Chief, Louis, and the officers that were here, are they here? Gentlemen,
They are.
please come up.
A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, honoring Brownsville police officers Federico Jaramillo, Eric Amaro, Eric Balboa, and Hilberto Hernandez. Whereas holding a position in the Brownsville Police Department requires passion and bravery in serving the citizens and residents in our community, most especially when encountering dangerous, life-threatening situations. And whereas on January 28, 2023, 4 of Brownsville's finest faced one of those life-threatening situations when they came upon the scene of a major traffic accident at the 4900 block of Southmost Road. There had been 4 people in the vehicle when it lost control. It struck several parked vehicles, then overturned. The driver and front seat passenger were ejected upon impact with only minor injuries, but 2 passengers remained trapped in the back seat of the vehicle. Officers Federico Jaramillo, Eric Amaro, Eric Balboa, and Hilberto Hernandez came on the scene. The vehicle had caught fire. The officers worked to extract the two trapped passengers as the flames continued to grow. As the vehicle was being engulfed in flames, Officer Amaro retrieved a water hose from a nearby residence and worked to delay the progress of the fire, while other officers worked to rescue the victims. To a bystander, the efforts of the officers would have likely seemed futile. While suppression efforts slowed the progress of the flames, they did continue to grow as rescue efforts continued, and the cries of the passengers fading as the flames began to reach them painted a very bleak picture. Despite the growing danger to their own lives and shrinking window to save the passengers, the officers persevered, and the first passenger was extracted at 2:11 a.m. The rescued passenger was not breathing, and Officer Jaramillo proceeded to perform chest compressions until the victim started breathing on his own. Efforts continued to extract the second passenger, and by 2:24 a.m., both victims had been cleared from the burning vehicle. Brownsville Fire and EMS were on the scene by this time, and the victims were transported to the hospital for treatment of their injuries. Whereas these officers responded to an emergency situation on January 28, 2023, with exceptional heroism and unrelenting determination, which resulted in lives being saved. And whereas these officers fully embody the bravery and spirit which exists among officers of the Brownsville Police Department, risking their own lives in the line of duty when civilian lives were in peril. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby honor Brownsville police officers Federico Jaramillo, Eric Amaro, Eric Balboa, and Hilberto Hernandez for bravery in the line of duty and heroic efforts which saved the lives of two civilians, and further call upon all citizens to do the same and celebrate the amazing men and women of the Brownsville Police Department and their daily efforts to protect and serve the people of Brownsville. Done on this 7th day of March, 2023, signed Mayor and City Commission. And Chief, if you or the officers would like to say anything, please come on up to the podium.
I invite Chief Sauceda or any of the officers, if you'd like to say anything, please, podium's yours.
Good evening, Mayor, members of our commission. I am just humbled and deeply grateful to be able to lead such an organization that this is reflective of who we are and the work that we do each and every day. There's so much criticism, and we oftentimes catch, so much grief over what we do wrong. But seldom do we celebrate days like today, events like this, and this is more. This is a bigger reflection of what we do on a day-to-day. If we were to tell every story, if we were to tell about every encounter, if we were to tell about every experience that we have, while we bravely encourage and courageously serve our community, it'd be a never-ending story. There's always a new chapter being written. But thank you, each and every one of you all, our community as well, for the support that we continue to embody. We hope to continue to make you all, we hope to make you all and continue to make you, subject of being able to look upon us know that we're here to protect you. Know that we're not going to shy away from everything that we need to do and is incumbent of our duties and responsibilities. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
I like to say for myself, I can't think of any act of bravery that I've seen during my term as mayor that could surpass this. And I know you did it instinctually. I know you did it not thinking about yourself, but about the two people that were in the car. And it's a testament to yourself, all of you, and a testament to the chief certainly, but also a big, big testament to your families and the way that you were raised. So to your parents, to your families, thank you for raising these fine young gentlemen. Chief, thank you for being a leader at the department, leader that certainly leads by example. And to all of you officers, thank you so much. Thanks.
And Chief, if I could follow up with that, thank you to you and your staff for helping us put together the information to be able to present this proclamation today. I know the mayor and I had the honor of being at the State of the Department seminar that you guys held a few weeks ago. And there we were able to see the actual body cam footage, and it was incredibly moving to see how these men jumped at a moment's notice to the call of duty and how your efforts saved lives. It was incredibly powerful. I left there with tears in my eyes because of the heroism that I saw. So thank you all very much, and thank you for allowing the mayor and myself to recognize these fine young men. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a proclamation recognizing National Athletic Training Month.
Commissioner Galansky?
So today I read a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, designating March as National Athletic Training Month. Whereas the Texas State Athletic Trainers Association is an organization committed to the education of its members and the enhancement of the profession of athletic training, creating better health care for the population it serves, and athletic trainers from professional, collegiate, and high school teams, industries, physician offices, rehabilitation clinics, and every branch of the United States military to work together to promote and practice the profession of athletic training within the City of Brownsville of Texas. And whereas athletic trainers have a long history of providing quality health care for athletes and persons engaged in regular physical activity, and whereas athletic trainers are highly skilled healthcare professionals who specialize in immediate, acute, and emergency care, examination, assessment, and diagnosis, injury prevention, risk management, therapeutic intervention, and rehabilitation of injury and illness. And whereas the National Athletic Trainers Association represents and supports more than 45,000 members of the athletic training profession, including more than 4,300 athletic trainers in the state of Texas, and leading organizations concerned with athletic training and healthcare, have united in a common commitment to raise public awareness of the importance of the profession of athletic training and the role of athletic trainers in the provision of quality healthcare services. And whereas it is the desire to promote improved healthcare and safety for athletes and all of those who engage in physical activity. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby designate March as National Athletic Training Month, done on this, the 7th day of March, 2023.
Do we have anyone here who is receiving this proclamation? Mister, come on up, please. Feel free to say a few words.
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, I just want to take a moment to thank you very much. Our athletic trainers, we have 10 here, Brownsville Independent School District. We have one at St. Joe. They do an outstanding job. They are truly the team behind the team. As we've seen in recent events like DeMar Hamlin, the athletic trainers are there when we need them. And I can't thank you enough. Like I said, a lot of the athletic trainers don't look for thank yous, but this is a big gesture for them. So I just want to thank you again. Thank you.
Next proclamation, we have Proclamation National School Breakfast Week.
Do we have anybody that's going to be receiving this proclamation?
No, sir, they had a prior commitment, so they will not be able to make it in today.
Okay, not a problem. Commissioner Cohen?
Sure. This is a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, proclaiming March as National School Breakfast Week. Whereas the school breakfast program has served our nation admirably since it was permanently established in 1975 and reaches more than 12 million children across some 91,000 schools and institutions in the United States each day. And whereas the school breakfast program meets the nutritional needs of children, improves food security, and advances child health and well-being by providing nutritionally balanced breakfasts to school children each day. And whereas school-age children who experience hunger are more likely to be absent from school, visit the school nurse, and experience more challenges than children with a nutritious diet. And skipping breakfast has consistently been linked with worse academic and health outcomes for children. And whereas eating breakfast improves children's overall diets, builds healthy, lifelong eating habits, and enhances their ability to learn and perform academically. And whereas making breakfast a part of the school day, commonly known as breakfast after the bell, and offering breakfast to all students at no cost are desirable and effective ways to ensure more students realize the benefits of breakfast. And whereas the federal community eligibility provision offers eligible schools the ability to serve breakfast to all students at no cost, increasing food security and academic outcomes, while also allowing schools to eliminate the collection of paper applications, reduce administrative costs, streamline meal service operations, and increase the reimbursement schools receive from federal child nutrition programs. And whereas parents, caregivers, teachers, and school food personnel all play an essential role to ensure the children of the city of Brownsville have the basic resources needed to grow, learn, discover their own potential, and live happy, fulfilling lives. And whereas No Kid Hungry offers information, tools, resources, and grants to support schools in implementing and expanding school breakfast programs, and the School Nutrition Association offers free materials to help schools commemorate National School Breakfast Week, including artwork to decorate their meal serving areas, toolkits and handouts, sample menu items, marketing materials, and suggested promotional activities, including games, activities, and contests. And whereas my administration is committed to helping expand access to and enhance current school breakfast programs to ensure that our children have the means to succeed. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby proclaim March 6th through the 10th, 2023 as the National School Breakfast Week, and encourage all residents to recognize and commemorate school administrators, food service directors, and cafeteria staff who operate school breakfast programs that ensure the health, safety, and success of our children. Done on this, the 7th day of March 2023.
Next, we have public comment period. We received 7 public comment forms.
Okay.
Okay. First one is Mr. Parahumada.
Welcome, Mr. Morales. Just please give us your name. You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you. When an injustice is committed, one cannot just stand on the sidelines. One must stand and expose the injustice, even if you have to stand alone. On May 1st, 2021, term limited charter amendment was held with 4,254 votes for term limits out of 99,607 registered voters in a population of 187,231. I am sure the majority did not fully understand how this would allow the city to go back 32 years to bar me from running for mayor. On December 11th, 2022 and January 9th, 2023, I wrote 2 letters stating my intent to file for a place on the May 6, 2023 ballot and asked the city if it intends to apply the 2021 term limit to me retroactively. The city never responded. Why? February 16th, 2023, I get 2 calls from the city in the morning stating I did qualify and I would be on the ballot, but to wait for their call to pick up the letter as a qualified candidate. Then suddenly at 4 p.m., I get another call stating I'm being disqualified, which is 68 days after my first letter to the city and on the eve of the deadline. Why? I hurriedly turned to the courts, but due to lack of time, the courts denied my TRO and appeal. It was not based on the merits, but based on time. What I am about to say is allowed, and do not let anyone tell you differently. You can protest the May 6, 2023 mayoral election by writing in Pat Omada for mayor, or writing in Mickey Mouse, or whoever you want. If we get sufficient write-in votes protesting the election for mayor, this will be part of the recourse to get a ruling from the courts on the issue. However, I do urge voters to vote against all propositions because we see how the city has used the term limit proposition to disqualify legitimate candidacy, mine. Do vote for commissioners, District 2 and at large, by voting for candidates not connected to special interests. I worked hard as a full-time mayor because it is a full-time job. Recently, in July 2023, I offered the city to manage the city for free for one year with one condition: no micromanagement and no response from the city. Why? My initiatives as mayor made it possible to balance a budget with a projected $2 million shortfall, build reserves, sell bonds, pave streets, lower the tax rate, bring passenger airline service to our dead airport at that time, start building police substations, lower utility rates.
Mr. Mother, you're out
more.
of time. Thanks. You're out of time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second public comment is Ms. Susan Rubalcaba.
Welcome. Please let us know your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Susan Rubalcaba. I'm not speaking about PUB today.
Not today.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. Today I'm here to speak to you about the desperate and immediate attention needed for the West Brownsville Little League City Park. Since 1952, the beginning of Little League in Brownsville, West Brownsville has had a mission to implant our youth the ideas of good sportsmanship, honesty, loyalty, courage, and respect for authority leadership. Who can deny the joy of a weekend Little League tournament with adorable players, dedicated parents and coaches, popcorn, candy, and hot dogs? In the next 2 weeks, the park is preparing for the opening day. Unfortunately, there have been multiple issues that have not been addressed by the city to make this location and its field safe and prepared. Emails and other correspondence have been sent, and still season after season, things are not being attended to. These are not just mere inconveniences, these are dangers to our community. This is the following 2023 season to-do list for the Little League. The big field lights have several that are not working and need to be replaced. There's holes that need to be filled in between the back fence and the parking area. The president of the WBL broke her leg a few weeks ago because of this hole and is still in a cast. New bathrooms, the water has been in disrepair since last season, making them unusable. Pitch counters purchased by WBL have been sitting in the city warehouse since last year waiting to get installed. Dead trees, they have been dead for the last 2 seasons waiting to get replaced. Sprinkler systems, a lot of the grass is brown, probably due to the sprinklers not working. The Challenger field lights, the fields have never had lights other than street lights, so they're badly needed. Playground equipment sitting in the city warehouse waiting to be installed for the last 3 seasons. Storage closet door rusted out for the last 4 seasons. Batter's eye material, new material is needed for the batter's safety. Bathroom and concession door repairs, ADA ramps for field entrance, and the dugout nets need repair and replaced. I employ the district commissioner to collaborate immediately with the Parks and Recreation Director, the West Brownsville Little League President, and work for the next few weeks to get this park in a safe state to begin the 2023 season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ezequiel Silva.
Mr. Silva, welcome, sir. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Ezequiel Silva, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, City Attorney. I'm here to address a big issue, which is not a secret, of downtown parking and favoritism and illegalities that are just ready to happen and accidents ready to happen. There's a business in downtown 1212 East Washington that has outside seating plus 4 designated parking spots. That business is not for curbside, it's for dine-in. Now, it's on city property, it's on a city street. Last year, and thank you for the Brownsville Police Department that have courageously protected us citizens. Last year, they had a car chase just south of us here in downtown that led to a wreck. This could happen anytime. Now, imagine somebody sitting outside, drinking, eating, and some crazy fool is running around for the cops, or drunk, or just speeding, or not paying attention, runs into this. Who do you think is going to be responsible? The restaurant? I seriously doubt it. It's on city property, on the city street. The one that's going to be sued is going to be the city. I have looked over and over again on city ordinances how this happened. How am I able to apply for a city outside parking? It doesn't exist. To me, that's favoritism over every other business. Now, over exaggerating parking spots for these businesses when some people don't even have a parking spot. Or 2, how does this person or this business have 4? And outside sitting, you're just waiting to be sued. Now, I understand that somebody waived this right. I don't know who, but they say that it was waived during the pandemic. Pandemic is way gone. Why are we still allowing this? Now, if it's going to be fair for everybody, then let every business owner have the same rights. Now, also the alley is another issue. This business also has obstructing the alleyway over and over again because they don't want their employees to park anywhere else, so they allow them to park in the alley, causing us, business owners, not to be able to pass by. And they don't care because they say that the parking fine is only $10. So they could care less. You could find them as day in, day out, over and over again. There's nothing going to be done. But those business owners are the ones that are suffering. And you guys want to revitalize downtown? You need to stop this favoritism and let everybody apply for the same or don't apply for anything. We are business owners downtown that are trying to revitalize this, bringing more businesses to downtown. Investors are always asking the same question: where are we going to park? I don't ask my employees to park anywhere else other than designated areas. So why are we allowing other businesses to abuse that same right? I ask you guys, ask each and every one of you that was elected to just be fair and stop this, because somebody is going to get killed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Joe Colon Uvalles.
Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. My name is Joko Nubayas. I'm a resident here in Brownsville. I'm here to voice public support for the proposal you will hear later being presented by Advocates for Youth. As we know, the state and really our community is ground zero for the life-threatening bans being placed on bodily autonomy and access to life-saving reproductive health care procedures. The proposal you will hear is one way the city of Brownsville can help create access for its residents. As we know, if folks have the ability to get care, they might not have access to get to that care. Transportation and the ability to move around freely is often a hindrance for folks to live happy, healthy lives beyond reproductive health care. For example, about 5 years ago, I was experiencing medical complications, and close to what I was later told was having a heart attack. I would later find out that this was hypertension, high blood pressure, unemployed, running low on funds. I had to make the quick decision of whether to order an Uber to the ER and run out of money for food that week, or call an ambulance and incur hundreds in medical bills I just know I can't afford. Either way, I chose to Uber myself to the ER and hoped for the best. I'm doing much better now, but these are the kinds of situations that you can help alleviate residents of Brownsville of, because that I had the funds to be able to buy or get an Uber. Many people do not. Any pilot program or proposal that considers supporting and expanding access to healthcare, especially reproductive healthcare, is both valuable and necessary to have a vibrant community here in Brownsville. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Kathy Torres.
Hello, welcome. You have 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Kathy Torres, Board of Directors of Advocates for Youth, and I'm the Organizing Manager and Helpline Coordinator at Frontera Fund, the Rio Grande Valley's sole abortion fund. Historically, we are an abortion fund that has covered costs for those seeking abortion care, as well as practical support, including travel and lodging. I have seen firsthand how much transportation barriers impacts a person's right to live full lives. Limiting a person's ability to access adequate reproductive care in turn impacts their ability to sustain themselves, their families, and plan their futures. The people of Brownsville deserve to raise their families accordingly with dignity and with the ability to make a choice to navigate their lives in a state that has already made it its mission to strip us of our body autonomy. I encourage the City Commission to allocate funds to make transportation for reproductive health services a reality for all, no matter their income or financial situation. Developing a partnership with Uber or Lyft to provide vouchers for those needing to access care would be beneficial to many people who are simply trying to make ends meet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Alexis Bay. She just wishes to register her opinion.
Okay.
Next, we have Vicente Martinez Jr.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Great to see you all over again here. It's been a while. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your time and service. I am Vicente Martinez Jr. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I was born, raised, and I joke with people, I'm probably going to die here. I love it so much. Growing up poor without a vehicle was a challenge. But fortunately, at the age of 27, I finally have a vehicle. And I'm able to help my family and friends access services and provide them with rides to places such as the store. But sometimes that's not the case. I cannot provide it because I'm either working or have errands to run myself. This is a question for everyone. Feel free to raise your hand or not. By a show of hands, how many of you didn't have a vehicle at some point in your life? How many of you had to walk miles to a doctor's appointment? How many of you have had to walk in the scorching heat or when it's rained? I have, and many people in our region, in their city, and in the valley have to do this again and again. Just because we don't experience these things doesn't mean others don't, and just because it doesn't happen to us doesn't mean we should care. We shouldn't care. We have the power to change the lives of people. You have the power in your hands to allocate funds and make lives better for your constituents, our people. We also live in the poorest region in the nation, and the costs continue to go up in rent, of course, also, and food and other services. We live in the highest uninsured state and region. I know many people have waited until they can barely move to seek medical attention. I know this happens a lot in my family, and I've talked to many people in the community that wait until the last minute, until they can barely move to seek medical attention. And again, we live in the poorest region in the nation, and we have the highest uninsured rate. And this is not normal. And many people go to Matamoros to seek medical attention. I know what happened recently. We need to ensure that our people are protected. If you don't know someone who has gone through this, you're part of the lucky ones. I've seen, as I mentioned, my family, friends, and community in pain again and again. If we're able to provide some relief, we should. People shouldn't have to wait until the pain is unbearable to seek medical attention. I highly encourage city commissioners to consider allocating municipal funding to transportation to local reproductive health clinics because nobody should suffer and people should be able to access medical attention when they need it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Next item, we have work sessions.
There's a sign-up period. I'm sorry, we follow that procedure. Sorry.
Work session number 1, Games of Texas status, highlights, and upcoming events for the summer 2023 games.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Commission. My name is Damaris McGlone, and we had some great proclamations that kind of segue. We have a wonderful Brownsville Police Department that's going to help us support us through these games. We're also reaching out to athletic trainers. We're in contact to help us to facilitate these games. Online, we have Director of TAF, the Texas Amateur Athletic Federation, Mark Lord. So he'll be joining us virtually for this presentation. And Games of Texas is hosted through the Texas Amateur Athletic Federation. So real quickly, I'll introduce you to Mr. Mark Lord.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me?
We can. You sound a little muffled, so you can maybe get a little bit closer to the microphone.
I'll do my best. Yeah, I just want to say how excited TAF is about coming to our 37th Summer Games of Texas. We've been to the Valley before. We look forward to coming back. This is a heck of an event. It's the largest multi-sport amateur event in the state. This is like a U.S. Olympic Festival for state athletes, young and old. So it's going to be a great opportunity. We've been working very closely with Parks and Rec there and have for years, and we look forward to coming. And I'll be on here to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you, Mark. And so in 2018, this has been a long time planning. We went and bid for these games, and we were able to get the 2023 and 2024 games, of course, after 1 year delay due to COVID. And on the screen, you can see some other cities that have hosted the games. And so we wanted to bring this back to the commission just to reintroduce to you the games, what they are about, why they're important, how our city can prepare for this, as well as athletes and our businesses and other support that will be needed. Oops, sorry, a little fast. There we go. This is a map. We will be hosting 12 sports at 7 different venues. And that includes basketball, fast pitch softball, flag football, pickleball, skateboarding, soccer. All of that will be at the Brownsville Sports Park. We'll have tennis at the Brownsville Tennis Association and boxing right next door at the Brownsville Event Center. Swimming, we are in a collaboration with BISD at the Margaret Clark Aquatic Center, and track also with BISD at Veterans Early College High School. Disc golf will be over at Montebella Trails, and golf will be at our own Brownsville Golf Center. And so we encourage athletes, local athletes, as well as athletes from all across the state of Texas. We have our communications and marketing department to help outreach, and we're working with local host organizations to host these tournaments. And we'll go into some numbers about why the Games of Texas is important to Brownsville. All right. Okay, no, that's a little delayed. Oh, hey, sorry about that. Really far. Okay, I'm not doing that. There we go. Apologize. Okay. And so real some important updates is, of course, we have a website created. You can go to taf.com, but also the gamesoftexas.com. We bought that domain so that if people were curious, they could go to that, and that mirrors each other. It mirrors those pages for the summer games. Again, the 12 sports. Right now, we have secured 565 hotel rooms. We are still trying to push for that Thursday, Friday night to get up to that 700 to 900 mark, but through Brownsville, SPI, and Harlingen. We hosted a hotelier and partnership opportunity social at the event center on the February 17th. And we also have sponsorships available as well. So if this is a right branding fit for your business or your restaurant, And this is, or whatever that may be, it could be for volunteering through your organization. We've got plenty of opportunities to help support our local community. And we won the 37th bid, and we are in progress of procuring over 250 volunteers needed. Mark, on his end, the Games of Texas, TAF, they bring liaisons down, volunteers from other Parks and Recreation departments and other agencies who take time off and come work a 12 to 14-hour day and for track and swimming. So they help with the liaisons for that. And I think, Mark, are you bringing about 250 as well, 200?
We'll bring about 80.
Okay. And so we'll have quite a big contingency of volunteers for that. And then, okay. Oh, this is really sensitive. Sorry about that. And how can we prepare? So the most important part is Brownsville ready? We are ready. We won the bid. There's going to be 8,000 hungry athletes here, plus their families. We're doing about a multiplier of 2.2. It's going to be an $8 million estimated impact that will come to our economy through sales tax, HOP funds, and things like that. We are really encouraging that our businesses are prepared for their supply chain, making sure that their employees are not on vacation that last week of July, that they're here to help with the wait times and serve those hungry athletes. And we'll coordinate, we're trying to strategically coordinate in those hot spots on the map where athletes need to be. And then, of course, we're coordinating with the Midi Cultural District downtown. We want to bring everybody to experience the wonderfulness of Brownsville, the safetyness of Brownsville, how much we love Brownsville, and to make them feel welcome and have them come back, right? And so we're encouraging businesses as well to offer incentives, to offer a slight discount code or a coupon, that way that they can come and patron their venue as well. And I mentioned the scheduling of staff. All right, let's see if we can do this. Okay, so how can you help us? Nope, really sensitive, I apologize. Volunteering. We need people from different organizations to help us volunteer. We have several planning committees, and we're meeting twice monthly on that. That frequency will increase as we get closer to the games. You can advertise, sponsor. You can just post a flyer at your business or at your school or share it. If you know an athlete in your life and you know that they participate in one of these 12 sports, let them know. They can get in contact with us and they can help participate. Relationship building. You are a trusted voice. People trust those who give them advice or connections and say, yes, this is what I know about this. You should try it out. So those with the trusted voice, we look to you. Actively spread the word, share it on social media, help us recruit, get involved, share your talent. If you, as an individual out there, have a talent that you want to help bring to us, please come participate. And then, of course, help us ideate. How do we make Brownsville welcome to 8,000 athletes and their families and hopefully get them to extend their stay? I'm afraid to press it again. Okay, there it goes. It's delayed. There we go. Okay, we are at your service. No, I didn't once. So we're passionate, committed, and dedicated to making this event a success. It is our first time to have the Games of Texas and showcase our athletes and our city. We want to put our customers' perspectives and needs and wants first, and we strive for excellence. We have a great bar to live up to from McAllen, who's hosted it, Corpus, Bryant College Station. These athletes expect a lot for us, and we're here to deliver, and we know that we can. We have a great team from the city manager's task force to our volunteer subcommittee to our Parks Advisory Board members who've been helping us out, to my department, to other city department staff. It is definitely a one city event, and so we appreciate everyone, and most importantly, our athletes for participating. And of course, the organizations such as TAF who do this year in and year out. We only have to do it twice a year, 2 years back to back. They do it every year. And so we want to light the fuse and go beyond. That is our tagline. We want to see you at the games. Many victories lie ahead, and we're here to answer any questions or answers that you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
Actually, do you, because I haven't been to one, do you have opening ceremonies and closing
We
ceremonies?
do. We will on Friday night. We're going to start at 8 p.m. It's going to be fantastic. We've already talked to Roca. We've got commitment from them. We want to showcase Brownsville and have that local flair and maybe a mini Charo Days kind of feel in July. Why not?
And so I was wondering, since a lot of the events are at the sports park, will there be opportunities for vendors, say anywhere from food to, I was thinking, or Rosti, I don't know if kids use that, but something.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were able to reach out and we'll host another event, but we'll need food, aside from food trucks or local restaurateurs, whether you can come up through the sports park at Veterans High School, at Margaret Clark, we'll have a lot of opportunities to help people showcase their business and their goods and wares.
So if there's any businesses like mine, for example, that want to display posters and whatnot, where can we pick those up?
We'll do it the Parks and Recreation Department. Let us know. We'll coordinate that and get those printed and get them to your business and help showcase that. And we can do drop off curbside delivery.
So just reach out to Parks.
Yeah, reach out to us. It's on either at our gamesoftexas.com has the website information. You can reach out to marketing@brownsvilletx.gov.
Thank you.
Can I add one last thing? Just to put this in perspective, our two largest cornerstone sports are track and field and swimming. We start statewide with over 20,000 kids trying to compete to get to the Games of Texas. We will narrow that number down from the 17 regions to get that to a workable number of about 6,500 within those two sports. It is huge. It brings heads and beds. The city of Bryan College Station CVB says it is like 4 consecutive home sellout games at Kyle Field, and that place seats 105,000 people. It's a big event. It will be a lot of fun and bring a lot of attention to your city.
Mark, thank you so much. Any other questions from the commission? All right, thank you.
Thank you. We hope to see you at the games. You're all invited.
Next item, we have presentations. First presentation, State of the System Report, presentation by Rio Grande Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Mayor, City Commissioners, good evening. We have today Mr. Andrew Cannon, the Executive Director of the RGVMPO, give a quick update on the state of the report. So,
the whole intro? That was gonna be something a little more grandiose. Mayor, Commissioners, Ms. Hernandez, thank you for letting me be here this evening. Just a quick update. We've been making rounds with all of the cities and the counties on our new publication, the State of the System Report. It's a snapshot in time of the region in 2022 to help us publicize a little bit of what a metropolitan region we truly are, and to try to help change some of the mindsets of people who look at us as a smaller community along the border region than, you know, what is really abundantly clear that we're not anymore. So it's just something that we put out there as some information. We tried to cover all the key components, you know, highways, transit, education, SpaceX, cities, freight movement, bridges, our interstate system, some information on the population, our poverty levels here, some of the more disenfranchised folks that we have here in the RGV that we serve. And then, of course, some of our information on the educational system here, because we wanted to celebrate that, because with the universities and now of Texas A&M, and they're about to break ground on a second building, is my understanding, up at the north end of McAllen, and all the schools that we have here, UTRGV in Brownsville, and then up in Edinburgh, all the connectivity. It's pretty exciting. And then, of course, somebody on my staff would not let me go if we didn't include bike and pedestrian facilities, which is always growing, and that's a good thing. We're excited about that. More money on the table coming on that. We're under a program called now for more bike ped related applications that will be taken through the TASA program that started on the 1st. So we're very excited about that. And then, of course, some data about the non-exciting information, some of the fatalities that we have, information crashes. We use that information in-house to do an examination of why and try to help that, and then try to implore or put out safety measures to try to address that. I serve on a statewide safety task force with TxDOT up in Austin. These are part of the scenarios that we look at to try to come up with ways and alternatives to go through this and address that. So I don't want to keep you very long. I know there's other more important information ahead for the commission to look at, but if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer that. Otherwise, I just thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Commissioner Gowan, do you have any questions or comments?
Wow, she
Anxious to see.
let me off early, easy tonight. So.
I'm anxious to see the TASA projects coming to life, and I'm anxious to see that next piece. I believe the 9 million is more than we've ever had in TASA funding in this region, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right, Commissioner. I think our last program call, and we roll it over for every 2 years, so we have a more abundant program call. And I think our last one was just a hair over $2 million. So with the new bill that's come out and the new emphasis that there is, thank goodness, with non-motorized facilities, I think there's going to be greater and greater influx of funds to things like hike and bike trails and pedestrian modes of transportation to provide that connectivity. Some of it's a little challenging, but challenging is fun.
It's
And
right.
that's what makes it worth doing, because then at the end, when we're successful at it, I think it's really great on some of the facilities that we have that we've been successful with, and some of the facilities that are immediately on the horizon. So it will, I agree, it will be very interesting to see what comes our way through a $9 million program call and what we have. And the mayor is fully aware of this with serving on my board. We're going to really be putting emphasis on those projects that we can put on the ground ASAP. We're not waiting 3 years.
I think it's important for all of us to acknowledge that this region deserves seamless transportation by choice, just like every other region in Texas. And I hope that we continue to see these additional funds put to great use.
Yes, ma'am. I can tell you that also later, probably starting on my 24 fiscal budget, which is October, we're going to be looking at a region-wide transit type of study to work with all of our transit providers that we have here to figure out how can we cooperatively come up with a more seamless system for that as well. I know that there has been improvements in the 19 years I've been here, and they're vast and they're great, but like anything else, we have a long way to go to improve it. So I'm hoping that these things will complement each other as we look to the horizon on how we can better move people without single passenger automobiles.
Any other questions or comments? Andrew, I do want to recognize you and say thanks for presenting to us, and we've always worked very well together, and I appreciate the RGV MPO presence in Brownsville with the office that we do have here, and I want to thank Eva Garcia, one of Brownsville's own, for her work on all of this. She does a great job, and the rest of the team here in Brownsville, so thanks.
Well, thank you, Mayor. We really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all the support that you've shown staff on the MPO policy board as well, because you've always been very open and inviting to all staff, and I think that goes a long way with staff when they're working with elected officials that they don't necessarily get to spend as much time with like I do, and I think that means a lot to them, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Next presentation, we have a project update by the Cameron County Regional Mobility Authority.
There, City Commissioners, again, we have Mr. Peter Sepulveda here to give an update on the RMA side.
Thanks. Pete, welcome. Good to see you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. So we've partnering with the City of Brownsville and the county on a couple of projects. Want to thank your staff for coordinating the projects with us. We've done quite a bit of progress on some of the projects. Dana Road, this project, we're using local money to advance the project development phase. And otherwise, if we would have been using TxDOT funding for the development phase, we wouldn't be able to start the project. So we've made quite a bit of progress. So some of the project highlights, we've completed the design survey. We've got the geotech work underway. We're coordinating with the irrigation and drainage districts, with Brownsville PUB as well. We have a proposed shared use path and sidewalks for the entire length of the project. And the project goes from FM 802 to FM 3248. And if you all travel Dana Road, you can see the complexities of the road. So it really, really needs improvement. Right now, we've got the project fully funded with an anticipation letting date of December 2025-26. So this is a typical section. And part of this project also includes the widening of the bridge over the Resaca. And so the typical section is going to be identical on the road and on the bridge itself. So we're looking at two 12-foot travel lanes. We're looking at a 12-foot continuous left turn lane. We've got two 10-foot shoulders. We've got a 10-foot shared use path on the west side and a 6-foot sidewalk on the east side. This is the typical section for the road itself. But as I just mentioned, the typical section for the bridge itself is identical to that. So the bridge, as you see it, will be widened. The majority of the area between 802 and 3248 has 80 feet of existing right-of-way. There are some pocket areas that have 100 feet. Some areas will require right-of-way acquisition, but right now we believe that the environmental document will be the very minimal, which is a categorical exclusion. And so that will save us quite a bit of time in getting the environmental clearance from TxDOT. Some of the next steps, actually the first bullet point, we just got that last Thursday. We've got an executed advanced funding agreement with TxDOT. So that paves the way for us to begin the coordination with TxDOT. So during the month of March, we'll have an environmental scoping meeting with TxDOT. We'll hold a design concept conference, and we'll submit the schematics and the environmental reports that we have for TxDOT review. The schematics are about 50% complete. The environmental report's about 25% complete. Right now, we're looking at a May, June, early summer public meeting. Next January, we should be close to getting environmental clearance and schematic approval from TxDOT, which would then allow us to begin the right-of-way acquisition and the design. And again, as of today, the project is fully funded for construction. I say that because with inflation, costs will go up, but hopefully we can contain that and not have a big funding gap to close out. Old Dallas Road, this is a connection between Highway 100 in Los Fresnos to the sports park. Again, this is a partnership with the county and the RMA. This is a project that we have 100% of the right-of-way in place. Utilities, for the most part, are in place. We had a virtual public meeting last August. We've got $20 million available for the construction of the project. So we've got a small gap that we need to close, but we're working on TxDOT. We believe that we'll get environmental clearance in April of this year, and the design is 100% complete. So this one, we're working with the MPO and TxDOT to accelerate the letting, and it might be very well where late summer, early fall, we can let this project to construction. East Loop project, this is a connection between the Veterans Bridge and the Port of Brownsville on the south side of Ostos Road. Environmental document and reports are about 85% complete. We're working with Fish and Wildlife on a land swap. We're going to swap right away that U.S. Fish and Wildlife has about 39 acres of new right away. We're going through that process. They've done an environmental document and they have a finding of no significant impact. So we're moving along with that process. The engineering and design is 90% complete. We do have about $30 million available in federal funding for the project. We do have a pretty big funding gap that we need to fill. So we're working with the MPO and TxDOT, and hopefully in the 2024 UTP, we can close the funding gap on this project and move on. But once we get the environmental clearance, once we complete the design, we'll be able to move on to right-of-way acquisition. But we're showing a lot of progress, which is what TxDOT likes to see. When you get to a 90% design, you're pretty much at 100%. Not a lot's going to change from 90 to 100%. So I think we're in relatively good shape on this project. The Veterans Bridge project, this is a construction of the additional 4 primary lanes for U.S. Customs and Border Protection for passenger vehicles. We're doubling the capacity of the passenger vehicles. This is a donation acceptance project that the county entered into an agreement with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Almost $15 million project. We're about 40% complete. We plan on opening sometime in October, November, hopefully. And we feel, even though that the improvements are northbound, we feel that the waiting times for passenger vehicles will be decreased to a point to where the public will be able to make multiple trips a day instead of the 1 trip a day they make today because of the waiting time. So and U.S. Customs has invested a lot of money in technology. On the commercial end of it, I can tell you that Veterans Bridge is the only bridge along the border from Brownsville to San Diego that has the latest technology that we do. And so consequently, we've seen an increase in commercial traffic, and hopefully that trend continues as we move on. That concludes my presentation, Mayor, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you, Pete. Do we have any questions from the commission?
I have one question for you. Have you all spoken to Customs and Border Patrol? Because I know we have 4 lanes at the moment, but usually we'll have 2 or 3 open. It's not often that all 4 are open. One is Sentry, and then the other 3, it's usually 2 of them are open. I mean, just the amount of money you're putting into it, hopefully they're gonna do their part.
Right, that was the main reason why we developed the project, because 2 reasons. One, when we originally opened the bridge, you're correct, it had 4 lanes for passenger vehicles. In 1998, when the master plan was done, we always contemplated an additional 4 lanes, just mirroring what we had. Unfortunately, soon after we opened the bridge, 1 lane was dedicated for the Sentry lane, which left us with 3 lanes. And then the bus traffic was transferred from the Gateway Bridge to the Veterans Bridge, so we took another lane, so we were left with 2 lanes. And so in the mornings, when we get a lot of school traffic from Matamoros to Brownsville, the waiting time is pretty high. So during the negotiations for the DAP project, the final agreement, the county negotiated with CBP, and we got some concessions that if we're going to make an investment, they would make a commitment to, at least during the peak hours, have all the lanes open so that the traffic could be expedited through there. So that's the plan for now, and we'll make sure to stay on top of CBP so that they follow the agreement that they had with the county.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you and for being on time and making sure that Dana Road is being addressed. It is a critical piece of infrastructure for a lot of the neighborhoods and schools that have been built on that road. So I'm very happy to see the plans that you have and the layout that is being planned so far. And I very much look forward to those meetings with the neighborhoods to see what input they can offer. So thank you. That's been very much needed for a long time.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's a really, really good project. I think in the next couple of months, you're going to see a lot of progress on the project now that we can coordinate with TxDOT. So we definitely will keep your staff abreast as we move along.
Pete, 2 things. One, the Dana Road is awesome, and I'm so pleased to see that. It's a hop, skip, and a jump, if I'm thinking in my mind correctly, from there to Cascade Park along the drainage canal, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd like you to keep an eyeball on that possible connection, as well as from there is another hop, skip, and a jump along that drainage canal to Cameron Park and historic Battlefield Trail. All within the realm of possibility, as long as the drainage district allows us the continued right-of-way of the drainage canal. My second question is about the southern extension of the West Rail Trail, which we've spoken about before, in hoping that one day we would connect to the B&M Bridge and a dedicated way to get across that bridge for bike paths. Any thoughts on that in the future?
Your first comment, Commissioner, I'll make sure that our consultant is aware of that and I'll get with your staff on that to look at that. Your second question, you're talking about the West Rail Trail into Matamoros?
Right.
Yes, Matamoros has their ciclopista project that's underway. I think it's a really simple connection that we can do. I know that the county has had discussions with Ambassador Salazar and the U.S. Consulate in Matamoros, along with the mayor of Matamoros. And so I think that is something that's relatively simple. We can take the lead in setting up the proper meetings so that we can get that accomplished. That does not require a presidential permit at all. As a matter of fact, because the two projects are already operational, it's a very simple connection. We would need to get with the folks at the B&M Bridge, but I know them well. I'll start that discussion. That's an excellent opportunity for both Brownsville and Matamoros. We always talked about that. We tried to get TxDOT to include that in the border master plan, but they said that unfortunately their border master plan did not include any hike and bike trails, which I think is a mistake. But this will be the only international hike and bike trail from Brownsville to San Diego. So I'll definitely start working on that and I'll get you a report by the end of the week.
Please do. I will gather many supporters who will be willing to speak in favor of it.
I just have a quick question. Just to confirm, the East Loop will be certified as an overweight corridor?
It is. As a matter of fact, this is how long we've been working on that project. In March of 2009, the state legislature passed legislation designating the new East Loop as the overweight corridor. So 14 years later, we're still trying to get there, but I think we're closer than we've ever been. As you saw earlier, we're 90% done with the design and engineering. I really believe that in July, August, when the TxDOT Commission approved their 2024 UTP, we're going to place a big dent on closing that funding gap if we don't close it completely. So we're in good shape.
Thank you, B.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Next presentations, we have Advocates for Youth presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. Thank you for having us. My name is Victoria Guerrero.
My name is Denise Palacios.
And we co-lead an organization called the Texas Youth Activist Alliance. Our organization seeks to organize and create grassroots campaign around reproductive justice issues at the state and local levels across Texas. Although our organization does do statewide advocacy work, we are both residents of Brownsville. I have lived here my entire life, graduate of Homer Hanna High. I'm very passionate about my community, and we seek to create change locally as well. So a little bit about what we are trying to do here in our city. Our campaign is called Route to Repro. As a region, we are one of the hardest hit by the bans on statewide abortion access. Texas has banned all abortion care in our state, and now even access to contraceptives and other reproductive health care is being chipped away. So that is why our campaign seeks to focus on access to reproductive health care. We feel it is extremely important for our residents, Texans as a whole, to have unrestricted access to reproductive health care as a whole.
And this campaign has been inspired by efforts that were previously done in Austin prior to the abortion ban, of course, and as well as the city of Kyle, which has a program that they run and is open for all residents and is not specific to any kind of issue area. They're just providing free transportation or subsidized transportation.
And we will expand further on the Kyle City Council's ordinance and program later in our presentation. But even though there are over 6 reproductive health cares in Brownsville, living wages in our city are not high enough to access life-saving reproductive health care. On top of that, transportation is a huge barrier for many people in our city. As you heard earlier in the public comment section. A lot of residents have transportation issues. A lot of us don't have cars, don't have personal reliable transportation. We know that the bus routes in our city are not as extensive as we would like. They don't service all neighborhoods, all regions. And we know that people are canceling their appointments to the doctor. They're canceling they don't have a right to get to these appointments. And that's an issue that we want to highlight.
And we know for a fact that there are 34% of Valley residents who are uninsured, which is the largest number of uninsured people in the country. We know for a fact that we have the highest number of people with chronic illnesses. And in the 2010 census, there were 225,000 Valley residents who are unaccounted for, which we know means we have less funding to provide healthcare services or other things that are important for our community because we don't have the funding that is properly allocated to our community. So we really want to make sure that, you guys already know that the people of Brownsville are under-resourced and underfunded, and we're just trying to bring to light this different area, which is transportation.
Exactly. And so we believe that the city of Brownsville should support its constituents by funding transportation to clinics that offer birth control, routine gynecologist visits, STI testing, prenatal exams, and more. Reproductive health care isn't specific to any gender. All genders need access to reproductive health care. And services go beyond just what we've listed here on this slide. So that's why it's important to all constituents, not just a select base. When cities allocate funding for reproductive health care, they help ensure people in their community can get the essential and time-sensitive care that they need.
And as you can see, we have lots of different folks here today who came out in support, who are not working past 5, slay. And this campaign has gained support from Frontera Fund. Kathy spoke earlier today. South Texans for Reproductive Justice, Denny's here today. Planned Parenthood Texas Votes, and other reproductive justice organizations in South Texas. And most recently, State Representative Erin Gamez has also stated her support for our campaign. So according to a community health needs assessment that was published by the city of Brownsville in 2019, 17% of respondents actually stated that transportation is a barrier to them being able to seek healthcare access. And I also want to point out that there is a large area southmost that doesn't have any clinics or hospitals, making it more difficult for southmost residents to be able to access any kind of healthcare. And I added these screenshots to show how much of a barrier transportation really is for different areas. So if you'll see at the bottom, it could be a 20-minute car ride from my Diaz house on Arkansas Road to the Valley Day and Night Clinic, which is the closest clinic. Or if somebody is dependent on the bus and there are other family members who are using the vehicle or the car, they would have to take an hour. They would have to schedule an hour and 40 minutes of their day simply to travel one time to be able to access the clinic, go to their appointment, and then have to travel another hour, 40 minutes. So we know that when we don't have access to transportation or limited access to transportation, this also affects public health outcomes, which is why it's so important to address today.
And so throughout our campaign, we have launched a canvassing survey. We've been canvassing constituents in our area to see their thoughts on transportation issues and their personal experiences with lack of transportation to getting to healthcare clinics. So we spoke to over 150 people in our community to ask them about their experiences with transportation access and reproductive healthcare. Out of all of our surveys, 1 in 3 people said that they do not own a car. Half of our respondents had to delay or cancel their appointment due to lack of transportation. And 96% of participants said that they would utilize this service if the city provided a free ride to their reproductive health care appointment.
So some of the anecdotes that have been shared is, quote, "It would alleviate so much stress about the logistics of how I'll get to my appointments and also alleviate the financial barrier of having a ride to and from the clinic, which would cost me at least $40 just for transportation."
I would be able to not worry about paying to get to important doctor's appointments, and it would generally make my life easier to have free, guaranteed transportation.
Quote, "It would be a huge improvement to everyday life. It would make traveling easier, especially considering that Valley isn't the most walkable, bike-friendly place with small sidewalks and sometimes non-existent bike lanes," end of quote.
I'd be able to go to the doctor right away when I'm sick or I am in need of medical services instead of waiting to get better on my own or neglecting my health due to lack of transportation.
So this is our recommendation, that the city of Brownsville allocate municipal funding for transportation to reproductive health care appointments. There is currently a partnership with the city of Kyle, between the city of Kyle and Uber Lyft for a free voucher program that constituents can use. So they have Kyle Uber 3.14 because they're the pie capital of Texas, 3.14. So the constituent pays $3.14, and the city of Kyle subsidizes that ride by $10. And they have, I believe, 4 rides a month that they can use, or sorry, 10 one-way trips, so 8 round trips to use through the app. And that allows them to move anywhere in the city of Kyle. It also provides free transportation to and from the Austin Airport and to and from the Veterans Administration Building. We're thinking that we can use this as an example of how the city of Brownsville could provide transportation to clinics and hospitals instead.
And we came to this conclusion through the surveys that we got with our constituents. Through their voices, we learned that the most beneficial program for them would be an Uber Lyft partnership, since it is just at the moment the most useful. Almost everyone has a smartphone. And so we thought that this would be a really important thing to start with. And hopefully in the future, once something like this is implemented, we can expand it further to those of us that don't have access to smartphones, don't have access to internet. But we do want to at least start on the progress of bridging the gap between transportation access and reproductive health care access. And lastly, this campaign is an opportunity for the city of Brownsville to be innovative and groundbreaking in the fight to secure reproductive health care for all. Like we mentioned earlier, this is modeled after a similar ordinance that was passed in the city of Austin, and it was implemented prior to Senate Bill 8 being passed. The ordinance was very, very popular amongst the city, and it was successful, and that's something that we want to see here in Brownsville as well. Even though abortion access in our state is non-existent, that doesn't mean reproductive health care isn't important, and that doesn't mean that our constituents are getting the care that they need, because we know that they're not because of transportation access. So that's why we are asking the city to join us, support this campaign. It is something that our city desperately needs, and reproductive health care is essential to all constituents. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As you know, I am a physician and specifically an obstetrician gynecologist who worked at Sioux Clinica for many years, almost 15 years. You've done a lot of great work, but I would urge you to as well meet with the clinics, both Sioux Clinica and BCHC, if you haven't already, because there are transportation programs that they operate with voucher programs that you may not be aware of, and that I would bet the people of Brownsville are not aware of. Bus passes, for instance, taxi vouchers that they have funded through different federal and state programs. If you really want to close that gap of transportation, the city probably cannot do it all, but together with programs like that, we can certainly work more productively on closing those gaps. So if you haven't met with them already, it would be, I would recommend that you do so that you can promote those programs that people don't know exist already. Transportation is a barrier, but it's not the only barrier. Healthcare coverage is another barrier. Pure and simple poverty is another barrier, and the lack of education to understand why it's important to go to a physician, which is why our health department and School of Public Health do such a great job of trying to broadcast all of that. So along with your work on transportation, be sure and think about those other barriers that exist as well, because there is not one single barrier to improve.
Any other comments? All right, thanks, y'all.
Keep up the good work.
Next item, we have consent agenda items.
Do we have any motions?
Mayor, I'm gonna step out. I have a conflict on.
I didn't hear you. You're gonna
I have
say?
a conflict on what I'm gonna step out.
Oh, okay.
With that, I'll go ahead.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Welcome back, Commissioner.
Get your 10,000 steps in.
Yeah.
Next item, we have public hearings. First public hearing. Public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2023-003 to rezone from residential estate to commercial corridor for blocks 12 and 13, Bankers Acres subdivision located at 3900 FM 511.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Our first case is a request to rezone from residential state to commercial corridor for the purpose of establishing an education facility for the existing migrant children shelter to the east. Property is fronting FM 511. There were 15 mailouts with 0 written opposition. The predominant land use in the surrounding area is undeveloped land. Additional uses such as single-family dwellings, civic institution, and commercial businesses are also present. Here's the street view of the existing development. The subject property is to the right. This is the aerial view. Staff would like to point out that the property to the east was rezoned from residential to commercial in 2018. However, at the time, the applicant did not express any plans of expansion to the adjoining property. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. Planning and zoning recommends approval to rezone from residential state to commercial corridor.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item?
I'll move to close, Mayor.
We have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes, and just note that Commissioner De Los Santos is outside.
Reading on ordinance number 235-2023-004-PD to establish a planned development district for a 3.142 acre tract out of a 120.45 acre tract, Share 12, Espiritu Santo Grant, commonly known as the northern 1.5 of the Rockwell and Wood Ranch, located on FM 511.
I have a conflict of interest, so I'm going to step out. I have filed an affidavit stating as such, and so I won't be participating in the discussion or the vote.
All right, thanks, Commissioner.
So this request is for a plan development to establish a specific setback of 15 feet along Old FM 511 in order to accommodate a climate control mini storage facility. The current zoning is regional center. This is the proposed site plan. Under regional center, a front setback of 25 feet is required along all right-of-ways. The red line here depicts the current required setback. In this case, the required 25-foot setback comes into conflict with a portion of the building. Proposed development does comply with required setback along FM 511. There were 11 mailouts with no written opposition. The predominant land use in the surrounding area is single-family dwelling. Additional uses such as undeveloped land, Brownsville Animal Shelter, and commercial businesses are also present. This is the street view of the property from FM 511. This is the aerial view. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. Planning and zoning recommends approval to establish a planned development district to allow a development-specific setback of 15 feet along the property primary frontage.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? Do you have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, those opposed? All right, do you have any motions on the item?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Public hearing number 3, public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2023-902-PD to establish a planned development district for Lot 5, Block 1, Charmaine subdivision located at 6109 Charmaine Court.
Okay, so this is a city-initiated case for plan development for the purposes of establishing specific regulations related to residential adjacency section of the Unified Development Code. The current zoning is residential transition R3, and property is fronting Charmaine Court. The proposed use is apartments. So with the adoption of the UDC, all multifamily developments are now subject to residential adjacency requirements when abutting a single-family use. Specifically, a 40-foot land buffer must be established along any property line abutting the single-family use. In the case of the applicant, their intention is to reduce this required buffer to 19 feet in order to continue the existing adjoining design. The next few slides will provide a narrative of the proposed conditions for the development if approved. This is the aerial view of the area. This is the site of the existing adjoining development. Staff would like to point out that permits for this development were issued prior to the adoption of the UDC. Therefore, the 40-foot buffer requirement was not triggered. Instead, the existing development complied with the previous zoning ordinance setback requirement of 5 feet. This is the site of the proposed development. And these are the existing single-family uses abutting the proposed development. So in the event this request is approved, all other adjacency requirements will still apply, such as the installation of a 6-foot masonry wall along the property line abutting single-family uses. To further protect the privacy and welfare of neighbors, applicant agreed to install a vegetation buffer with a minimum height of 15 feet and depth of 5 feet. Here you can see the yellow line representing the approximate location of the required 40-foot buffer being reduced to 19 feet. Additionally, if approved, no structure within 40 feet of said property line shall exceed a height of 20 feet. And this is measured from the finished floor to the top of supporting walls. This slide summarizes the list of conditions applicant has agreed to implement in order to proactively address adjacency-related concerns. Allow the proposed setback of 19 feet along the property line adjacent to residential uses, the installation of a 6-foot masonry wall along the property line adjacent to residential uses as per residential adjacency requirements, the requirement for the installation of a vegetation buffer with a minimum height of 15 feet and a minimum depth of 5 feet to provide a visual screen between the proposed use and residential uses. Require that the proposed vegetative species be of accelerated growth. Require the installation of an irrigation system to maintain the required vegetation buffer. So this is the proposed site plan submitted by applicant. Here you can see the 19-foot setback, the proposed 6-foot masonry wall, the bamboo curtain, and the irrigation system. There were 18 mailouts with no written opposition. The predominant land use in the surrounding area is single-family dwelling. Additional uses such as undeveloped land and a recycle center are also present within the vicinity. This is the street view from Charmaine Lane. This is the aerial view. And the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. Planning and zoning recommends approval to establish a planned development district subject to the proposed conditions.
All right, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? You have a motion to close?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Now, do we have a motion on the item?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
You said there's no written opposition. Was there any other opposition?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public hearing number 4, public hearing in action on ordinance number 2023-1652-C, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 94, Taxation, Article 2, ad valorem taxes, Division 2, exemptions, Section 94-57, historic sites, by repealing and replacing Section 94-57B, 2022, Historic Preservation Plan Tax Abatement Program with the 2023 Historic Preservation Plan, Schedule A, Schedule B, and Schedule C.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners.
Wait, can I interrupt? I'm going to abstain from this one. I have a conflict, even though you property was denied at the workshop last time, but I just don't want to participate in neither in the discussion or the vote. So I just want to go on record. I filed an affidavit for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
So this slide shows the three schedules, A, B, and C. The total of properties, as you can see, 113 for a total cost of $124,000. Schedule A considers federal, local, federal and state, local and substantial rehab. Schedule B, it's listed there in order that an officer could abstain, and Schedule C reviews 8 properties that may be out of compliance with the UDC or the Section 9457 of our tax code. So, well, I don't know how are you going to vote, but let us say we are here showing the Schedule C, Historic Preservation Commission and the Planning and Zoning, because this potential out of compliance.
Mayor, I would recommend you take Schedule A first. Schedule A includes federal, state properties as well as local properties. They've all met the requirements for either the state, federal, or locally to be included in Schedule A, and they're recommended for approval by the P&Z and the Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was going to suggest we do this separately like we've done in the past. So this is a public hearing. Mr. Velez, are you done with the presentation? I assume you were. Okay. So this is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? All right. Do we have
I'll move to close, Mayor.
we have a motion to close? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Mayor, I'll
Motion?
move to approve item A. I'm sorry.
Okay. We have a motion to approve item A.
Second.
Sorry, Schedule A. We have a motion. Was there a second, Commissioner?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. On Schedule B, do we have any motions on that?
I'll move to approve Schedule B.
Can you give me, oh, I'm sorry.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do. I'm looking at the pictures real quick. Can you give me 1 minute?
I think these are C.
Is B the Crest Building or which is
No,
B?
that's C. That's C.
Where's B?
This
I'm
is
sorry.
2 properties that are separated in order to allow the commission to have a separate vote and allow commissioners the opportunity to participate in the vote or abstain.
Those are mine, Commissioner.
Huh?
Those are mine. Schedule B is the properties I own.
Oh, okay, but those were denied, correct?
Right.
Denied?
I don't know what he say. What did you say about B?
No, there was nothing on B. B
There's
is
nothing on
recommended
B.
for inclusion.
Which one is it?
It's going to be C, 5, and 6.
Okay, they just put it separate. Okay.
Well, there's 3 schedules. We've approved A. We're voting on B right now, then we'll go to C.
I have to abstain on this. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? You have anything else?
I'm good on B.
Good. All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And I'm abstaining. Thank you. Now, Schedule C, Commissioner.
I'm going to let Commissioner Cardenas handle item C. You know what? You can handle item C.
Oh, no, I'm looking at the pictures.
I mean, we can do anything we want on Schedule C. It doesn't, if you're looking at a particular property, Commissioner, on Schedule C, the recommendation from Planning and Zoning was properties 5 and 6 that were not recommended. However, the commission can do any other properties or approve these properties.
I think she said she wanted it denied, right?
6 is the soccer. It's across from Terrace.
We're trying to pull up the presentation that included the photos.
So while we're pulling that up, I've got questions on Schedule C. And I appreciate that this was part of the packet this time like I asked, but when I go through this, for almost every single property in here, I still see defects. Yet still, it's only 2 out of the properties that we're recommending not be included, and I'm hard pressed to find what the difference is.
Well, Commissioner, if I can jump in on this, Schedule C was put together, please correct me if I'm wrong, Juan or Rick, but Schedule C was put together because there was concerns from the department that these were not in compliance. So my understanding is that Mr. Velez did kind of put these properties aside as his opinion being non-compliant or of concern. Once it got to the council, the HPC, they only chose to not recommend 5 and 6. However, looking at the photographs, we're the ultimate ones that determine whether or not to approve these.
Right.
There is some concerns on some of these properties. I agree with Mr. Velez on these. I mean, we see the photographs, but we can go through them if we so choose.
I mean, that's what I'd like to see. When I look at the packet and I see defect on every single property, and I see federal, local, state, substantial rehabilitation, I see no's across the board for Schedule C.
Well,
So
and-
I'm trying to understand what's the difference between 5 and 6 and the others, if they all show defects. And several of those pictures show no signs of activity or active restoration, but they're being recommended for inclusion where the others are not. The packet, it's not easy for me to see the difference. That's what I'm saying.
And
So help me understand that.
well, the purpose of the historical abatement here is several. One is obviously you want to try and preserve a property that has historical value. The key word is preserve, right? So therefore, the purpose of having tax abatements or tax incentives is with the thought that that money is going to be put into the property because historical properties, as Commissioner Gowan knows also, typically take more money to maintain. So you save a little bit, but with the thought that you're going to reinvest. And as a owner of historical properties, I can say that it's constant maintenance, right? So, Mr. Vasquez, I'm not sure whether you'd like to comment on this or Mr. Velez, but the purpose of Schedule C, am I correct in that these properties were of concern to at least Mr. Velez?
The purpose behind Schedule C is there are properties that are included on the list that don't meet the criteria that are established in ordinance or in the state program.
So basically, these were deemed at risk, so to speak.
We're just being transparent and disclosing to the commission, although they have a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission, or don't have a recommendation, or they were approved or not approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, they still didn't meet the ordinance requirements that we presently have.
And I think that's what I'm not seeing in the packet. The packet does not illustrate to me that these are the defects, why we're recommending no. And I also had a concern because when I look at the pictures 4, 5, and 6 specifically, each of those slides says HPC, P&Z did not recommend inclusion. But when you look at the chart above, it shows HPC does not recommend inclusion, but P&Z does.
On which slide? I'm sorry.
Can we go through the slides, please?
Oh,
767.
If you look, it's the slide that's for number 5, the Crest Building first.
Okay.
But it's, 767 and 768 are what the slides I'm looking at.
On that one, can you see the?
So see, that says no for HPC, but yes for P&Z, but the slides with the pictures say P&Z did not recommend.
what P&Z actually recommended was whatever the HPC recommended. They really didn't take the cases individually and evaluate them in their review of the cases. I think the comment was even made that the HPC does a good job. Let's follow their recommendations.
Then this information should reflect that, because this chart does not reflect that.
Can you say that they did?
So I think in the language here, what we're pointing out.
If we just can go back, it goes to HPC, then it goes to P&Z.
Okay, hang on a second.
So I
Now
think
I
that's
have,
important.
now I have another problem. The slide you have on the screen is not the slide that was in my packet. Why is that? slide in my packet, bullet number 2 says HPC/P&Z did not recommend inclusion in historic preservation plan, and that's not what's on the screen now.
Well, there's with this particular application, there's two deficiencies. One, it doesn't meet Chapter 94 of the tax code, specifically the architectural features provision. And then number 2, the property was not recommended for approval by the Historic Preservation Commission.
But once again, we're here where I'm seeing things for the first time when I'm expected to take a vote, and I don't appreciate that.
We'll go back and find out why the two presentations are not the same. We've submitted them through the agenda process, so I'm not certain why that happened.
When you say that they didn't, were you done? Yeah. When you said that they don't meet criteria, is that to say that they're not considered historic enough? Or
No,
are you
there's
talking
9
about-
different criteria established by ordinance through Article 40, or Chapter 49 of the tax code that says a property must meet in order to be considered qualified for a tax abatement. There's also, in this case, the Historic Preservation Commission makes a recommendation to the board on that particular property's participation in the annual plan. So in this particular property, neither of those met the requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see the next slide, or the slide for number 6. Yeah, see here again, the slide that's in my packet, there is no language on the right over the second picture. And the language on the left says HPC and P&Z did not recommend inclusion in historic preservation plan.
I've never seen this photo. Well, I mean, I saw it in the packet, the one on the left, but is that what it actually looked like at one time, Juan? Wow. This is the first time I see that. That's amazing.
Very New Orleans.
Do you know whether that curved or the other structure on the right, that uniquely designed one, is still below that? Do you know?
Trying to explain through the photographs is that the store that is with the balcony, and so the building is still there. The one at the corner was the house, and it has gone. So neither the store, neither the first floor or the second floor look like the original photograph.
Right? Is there any other photographs on the other properties? Because I know it was in the presentation, but anybody, Commissioner Los Santos or Commissioner?
Yeah, we had a question. So your recommendation is none of these get approved, correct?
No, we don't have a recommendation. The P&Z.
I think you need to talk about the process.
Yeah.
How this applicant, who goes first,
Oh, I'm sorry,
who approves,
Mr. Velez.
and then go to P&Z so that I think we all understand what the
Yeah,
process
so this
is.
is not like a zoning case. This is a request to be considered in the annual historic preservation plan, which is a tool to encourage the preservation of properties, the improvement of properties.
Yes.
We don't take applications. The recommendations, the property owners will either reach out to Mr. Velez, or the HPC may identify properties they think should be included, or we can take suggestions from the commission as well. Once we have that list of properties, then Juan evaluates those properties to make sure they're meeting the criteria of Chapter 94 of the tax code, and they're meeting the Unified Development Code or any of our building codes. And then Juan provides a recommendation to the Historic Preservation Commission. The Historic Preservation Commission reviews those recommendations, and they either accept or deny them, and they make a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning Commission typically doesn't deal with historic preservation issues. They deal with land development issues, so they defer to the Historic Preservation Commission in most cases. Once the Planning and Zoning Commission finishes, those recommendations come forward to this city commission for final action.
I understand that part. The question was actually for Mr. Velez. The recommendation that you have is these should not be included, correct?
information. We are simply showing properties that are not aligned with the UDC
Okay.
or the section 9457.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Now,
so basically, the list includes properties that don't comply. then.
yeah,
I
they don't
guess it's-
comply, correct. And the other question was, we did speak, what was it, on Thursday, I believe, or Friday? Were any of these business owners or building owners notified that they were not going to be included?
Juan did, after the workshop, I did direct Juan to reach out to them and let them know that their property had issues. The challenge is it's not minor fixes like you might think, adjust a door or window. They're ordinance problems. For example, one property has been in the program 7 years, but the ordinance says you have a maximum of 5 years.
Correct, we
And so
spoke
they're
about
going
that
to
one,
pay.
which was on McNair Road, I believe, right?
Right, so it's not a matter of calling him up and telling him, that he has to adjust something. You'd have to revise the ordinance from 5 years to 10 years, so then he would meet that qualification. But right now, the ordinance says you can only participate for that program up to 5 years, and they've exceeded that.
And the purpose of that, Commissioner, was always, that was a substantial rehabilitation, right? So if somebody invested a substantial amount of money into a property that maybe had been in a really bad condition, then they would have a benefit called substantial rehab, where they would have 5 years of benefits from taxes with the intent that within those 5 years, they would apply for a state or federal marker, right? So in this situation, if the 5 years are gone, then you can assume that that application never occurred.
Okay, thank you. And everybody could apply next year if they comply.
Well, the requirements remain the same. However, if the commission directs the staff to bring the requirements in concert with the 8 properties, we would have to modify the standards and bring those to the commission for adoption.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Did we close public hearing? Billy, did we close public hearing? Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak on this item? All right, do we have a motion to close?
Close public hearing?
We have a motion to close. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, do we have any motions on the item?
Ed?
I don't have a motion.
I'll move to deny.
Which,
Oh, is it 5 and 6? What was the recommendation?
well, again, there's no recommendation, but I
Well,
think what
but
P and Z.
Who are the non-compliant?
All of them. Technically, but what
that's the
the
problem.
HPC themselves suggested was to deny 5 and 6 only.
And that's the problem that I have, is it looks capricious. We're saying all of these properties don't comply, but we're only denying 2. But nothing in here explains why these 2 and not the others. It looks capricious. It doesn't make any sense.
I thought these 2 had ordinance issues. That was why they were excluded.
So the 2 properties that were recommended to not be included in the plan, number 5 and 6, Crest Building and Souter Building, according to the discussion at the HPC, there wasn't evidence of any historic preservation activity on the buildings.
Is your mic on, Rick? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you compared to before.
So the discussion at the HPC revolved around lack of preservation activity. And so we were not able to find evidence of preservation activity on those 2 buildings.
And so all of the other properties were in compliance with the ordinances?
No, the other I'll take number 1 as an example. The state historic preservation office has communicated to the historic preservation officer that that individual is not in compliance with their state plan. That qualifies them for 100% abatement locally, but they should be in compliance with their state plan in order to receive the local benefit, or else they would be reduced to a 50% property until they come into compliance. So that's why that's on that particular list. The others, 2, 3, and 4, I believe are, let's check here real quick. No preservation activity on number 2. No preservation activity on number 3. No preservation act, number 7 was also no preservation activity.
So you see almost every property, there's no evidence of any preservation activity. But let's say yes to all of them except 5 and 6. I don't see the rationale.
So, Commissioner Tetro, just to clarify then, was your motion to deny the entire list or only 5 and 6?
That's a hard one because none of them are compliant or even trying to. And I feel very strongly that a preservation effort needs to be made in order to waive your taxes. That's not fair to the rest of us that want to invest in our homes. Still have to pay taxes. So you either participate in the program or you should not be asking for the waiver. So with that being said, my motion will be to deny all of them.
Okay. We have a motion to deny the Schedule C. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question. Rick, do they give any reasons why the HPC moved to approve this Schedule C?
No, sir.
I have a question. Did you have another question, John? I'm going to play the devil's advocate. If it could be that some of these property owners are waiting for the abatement to be able to afford to do whatever it is repairs they're looking for. Is that possible or is that really outlandish?
Well, it's supposed to work that the improvement is made and then the evidence is provided through receipts and documentation, and then they're included on the list. Not that there's an abatement provided and then we'd have no mechanism to verify that those improvements would take place. This program needs to be reevaluated. It's done on an annual basis. It's very difficult to evaluate a project where you spent a large amount of money and try to recapture a benefit in a one-year time frame. What we probably should be doing is evaluating how much is spent on preservation activity and quantifying that, and then bringing the commission a 1 to 5 year recommendation to allow the property owner to recapture some of those funds. We don't do that right now. We do this on an annual basis, and program needs some redesign.
I would like to see that change. It is confusing.
Yeah.
But as a former owner of a historic building,
Depending on how much is spent, the 5 years may not be enough to give a fair recapture, so we'll look at that too.
I think that's important, but it's very important to preserve these buildings. But it's also very important that they are owned by people who are going to put in the work and participate in the programs and meet the criteria that we have. So there are some buildings on this list that I am very personally attached to, and I would love to see them, you know, in their prestige prime, right? But we have to be fair to the citizens, and we have to collect taxes, and it's just part of the program.
And I think the concern for me is that there's a disparity in treatment on all these properties. And I think, and I don't know if more information is needed on why HPC has 2 different standards. I think we should table Schedule C until we have more information.
I would agree. I was going to suggest the same.
I'll move to table.
Well, there's,
Whether still a motion.
this is where I need your help, counsel. So there was a motion and a second. We were in discussion on that motion, so.
Yeah, so you could vote on that motion, and if it fails, then take up the second motion.
All right, I'll
or
vote nay.
You could withdraw.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Those in favor of denying Schedule C? Aye. Else?
Aye.
Okay. Those against?
Nay.
Okay, so motion fails. Do we have any other motions?
Move to table.
Second.
Mayor, could I just give a little information on the process? In addition to the city waiving the property taxes, it includes the county and the college district and port. We're not going to make the deadline if you table this item tonight and be able to get it to those other entities in time for the property owners to be given the abatement. So we're short on time.
Good.
What's the deadline?
I'm sorry, can you speak into the microphone?
For the 30th of April, Cameron County must have all the lists and so that means that we have to introduce to the rest of the stakeholders, we must have the resolutions signed and some of those, such as the TSC, takes a while, takes more than 1 month.
So I didn't hear a deadline.
We think the deadline's tonight. We have to do 2 readings here before we go to the other entities. Probably will run up against a deadline for those boards to produce their packets.
We can have a special meeting if that's needed to be able to give the commission time on this single item, if that's something you'd wish to do.
Well, it's Schedule C, so I'm not sure, Rick, whether there's like, for example, if this doesn't get approved by the COB, does that mean that TSC can still approve it on their own, or does it require one full thing? Because I would think the port can still approve.
We introduce always to the stakeholders the package.
You know what I'm saying, right?
I think if the commission were to recommend denial, we could move that forward to the other entities and see what they do, see if they still want to participate at their level, but
Okay.
So when do you anticipate pitching it to the others?
right after the second reading, which is the second meeting this month.
So we don't anticipate it going to any of them before the next meeting? So even though it will not have had a second reading by then, at least with regard to Schedule C, if we table tonight, at a minimum, we would have had a first reading that could have passed. So you'd still be able to pitch it as a package, as it's already passed first reading to the city, and now it's just pending second reading.
First part of April.
Okay. Then I think the
That makes
motion to
sense.
table is still appropriate.
Okay. We have a motion to table there, and I think there was a second, so any additional discussion?
I do have additional discussion, 7 and 8, which is on the screen right now. You talk about the 5-year limit. This is 7 and 8. Once again, I don't understand why we're putting yes on this if we have a rule that says 5 years. So we either need to change that rule, or we should not be saying that it should be done, because we're just breaking our own rules.
I think in the staff cover sheet, we do recommend that the commission give us direction to either revise the ordinance or leave it the same.
Thank you.
All right, any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, it is Schedule C's tabled. Thank you.
Next item, we have items for individual consideration. Item number 1, consideration and action to approve resolution number 2023-033, declaring support for the 88th Texas Legislature to direct state funds for broadband deployment.
We'll let Commissioner Cardenas read this one. Just kidding. Do we have the language you can put up on the screen?
It's pretty basic. You're just asking the ledge to just support broadband funding for
Exactly.
more equity and connection.
And yeah, and while of course we have our solution here for Brownsville, like we've always talked about, it transcends just our city limits. So it's important that as a region and as a state, we've got plenty of funding out there for municipalities and counties.
All right, easy. Do we have any motions on this?
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Next item, we have item number 2, consideration and action to approve an amendment to the City of Brownsville's Thoroughfare Plan.
Mayor, City Commissioners, good evening. We have before you a request to amend the current Thoroughfare Plan. As you're aware, as part of the mobility plan, we have our consultants looking at what is feasible, what is not feasible for the future. Last year, internally, we had staff review and make sure and comb through the roadways that we have, make sure that the roadways that we have in there that have been outlined in the last 25 years still make sense today. We have before you one that was identified. Our master plan is still not yet completed, but we want to make sure we get this right. There is a future roadway, a collector, you see on the screen, and in your packet, there was a map. It was a small little slither to connect over to Saka, and then it ends roughly in the center. And so, one, ticking for the next 50 years, this roadway would never be built. And then two, the outline, we would have to do eminent domain for several properties there. And so it's really unfeasible. And so our ask today is to really amend this to eliminate completely this segment in our thoroughfare plan.
Okay. Do we have any motions on the item?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Is there any discussion?
Oh, well, this is something that still will probably happen in the future, just not the near future.
Correct, yes.
Very good.
Okay. Any additional discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Item number 3, consideration and action to approve the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation expenditure of Type B funds for First National Bank, Texas, known as Project Green Cuts, number 23-001, in the amount not to exceed $220,000.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. Go right straight into the project itself. So BCIC's Board of Directors back in November approved the Project Green Dots, which we now know as First National Bank of Texas. This is a $220,000 grant to the organization to create their very first virtual banking center here in Brownsville. This will create over 113 jobs and will actually take place in that very vacant open lot over by Lowe's. If you're kind of familiar with the place, it's completely underutilized. This will kind of spur some more development there. It'll also have a residual economic impact from the patronage of the surrounding businesses in the area. It's for a 7-year lease agreement totaling $1.3 million with the 113 jobs, 85 of which will be created the first year. The remainder will be over years 2 and 3 with an estimated annual payroll of over $3.6 million. The eligibility for this does meet the Texas EDC codes and standards. The Board of Directors again approved in November. The grant itself is reimbursable, so they have to spend that first. The $220,000 will actually be going to a generator within the building so that if the power does go out in the city, the virtual banking center can still operate, as these jobs will facilitate needs for their entire customer base in Texas, Arkansas, Arizona, New Mexico. All of them will be talking to someone here down in Brownsville. This is not just an investment from BCIC coming forth with this. GBIC will also be providing an incentive as well. The project terms: year 1, 85 new hires; year 2, 28 new hires; year 3, there has to be a minimum retention of 113. The estimated investment in total will be $3.2 million. For the center itself. The investment over the 7 years, this includes the rent, the payroll, as well as the investment in the building, will total over $8.2 million. Payment will not be made if they're not in compliant, clearly. And each baseline job is considered full-time at 40 hours a week. So as far as recommendations go, we hope that the City Commission will approve what our Board of Directors approved back in November. Again, this project creates 113 full-time jobs, has a commitment of 7 years with a total investment of $8.2 million. It spurs new development in the existing area near Lowe's, which is very much needed. There's some residual economic impact with patronage for those businesses. And this is a great kind of example of the collaborative nature we've got going on with both the City Manager's Office, BCIC, and GBIC coming together to make our community more competitive. And I will open it up for questions.
All right, do we have any questions?
I do. So not to say anything disparaging, but I do have a question. I mean, if a bank, in this case, this bank is coming to us, you, for these funds, what's to stop other banks from saying, well, you know, I want new lights in my drive-through, so let's go to BCIC and GBIC and get money from them?
So to answer that twofold, we had actually met with a consultant to see of a project of this size, what BCIC and GBIC. To answer the second part of your question as to what's stopping a bank from coming in, as long as they're kind of investing in our human capital, in this case, the good paying jobs, they're getting health and dental benefits, 401k, and tuition reimbursement. If they're kind of investing in those employees themselves, then that's something that we'd want to look at. And I think that's why our board of directors went ahead and approved something like this.
I'd like to add, this was a competitive project. We were competing against other cities in the valley for this.
It was between us and McAllen, yes.
I'd like you to see you come with collaborative projects between GBIC and BCIC that are green and open space and park related.
Absolutely. I'd like to come to you with those as well.
An opportunity for that is a field trail, so that may be something that you both can look at together.
Yeah, my dream is to have the Palo Alto Battlefield Trail and West Trail be connected and we can have an actual loop. But now I'm digressing a whole lot there.
As I said, I don't mean to be negative about this project. Obviously, there are great merits, but BCIC was created for parks and green space, and I'd like to see motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion?
I just want to follow up a little bit on what Dr. Gowan said. We did hear in our public comment today about lights and stuff going on West Little League. I mean, let's just, like she said, let's continue to look into that. Let's not lose focus on what it was made for at the beginning, and that's it. But thank you.
I just want to add to that this is very exciting that Brownsville was able to land this over McAllen. But I very much remember the days of BCIC focusing on quality of life in ways that affected parks and trails and our zoo and things like that. And I miss it. And so.
I hope that we'll come to you with a solid quality of life project very soon.
Thanks.
Right. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
And before I leave, just a friendly reminder, on Thursday, we have our grand opening for the eBridge Center, and I hope to see you all there, and we might need to even have a walking quorum and notice if you all come. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I think there's an exception for social events.
Item number 4, consideration and action to approve a grant agreement with Best Friends Animal Society for training and other operational support for animal care services at no cost to the city.
Yeah, why do we even have to read this? I'm sorry.
Honorable Mayor.
We have some friends that
Commissioners,
travel a
good
little bit
evening.
to come say hi, so.
Well, it's absolutely an honor to be up here tonight, especially for this reason, but I also need to introduce to you a cast member, Dr. Antonio Caldwell, who has joined our team at the Brownsville Animal Regulation and Care Center, and also joining us from the Best Friends Network is Ms. Paula Powell. We also have with us Dr. Logan McAllister, our veterinarian, and they will be talking to us about this grant agreement that is really something that they will give you the details, and we'll be happy to answer any questions at the end.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm excited to be here in front of you this evening to present for your consideration the grant agreement between Best Friends Animal Society and the City of Brownsville. To give you a little bit of a background on the foundation and the mission of Best Friends, I'll ask Paula to review that for us real quick.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm so happy to be here representing Best Friends Animal Society. My name is Paula Powell. I am a senior strategist for Best Friends Animal Society, which means I get to travel all over Texas and help the shelters and communities do better. And I was so excited. It's a little bit ironic, but I was so excited today when I saw Mark Lord's picture up there, because that's how I fell in love with Brownsville, was at that bid for the Games of Texas. I was his opponent, and I was Brownsville's opponent, and Brownsville beat me. So it was pretty cool, kind of ironic that I saw that going on. A little bit of history I've been with Best Friends for 2.5 years. After 26 years as a municipal government employee, I retired for 10 days and then started working for Best Friends Animal Society. And I love it. I absolutely love it, because we get to help you guys, help communities, help shelters, just do better. And so it's about not just talking the talk, but walking the walk alongside you. And what we've done in Brownsville over over the last 2.5 years, we've done an adoption event where you adopt out every single animal that you took to the event. That little light bulb started going up, Brownsville means business. And we've, you guys set a Guinness Book of World Records, didn't last very long. Just kidding, just kidding. But you did set that record, the first record, and you started something big, not just for Brownsville, but for this entire country. Everybody's continuing to want to break that record. So that's pretty awesome. So we were part of that alongside Dr. McAllister's actually gone to some of our trainings. Our veterinarian's been in your shelter working with her, planning on some clinic stuff happening, and she'll talk more about that later. But we have a lot going on with Brownsville, and this embed project is key. And what we want to do is support your community through programming that fits your specific community. We're not coming in and just saying, hey, do it this way. We're involving you. We're involving you to make the change that you know you already want to make. So I'm so excited to be here and excited to work with the city of Brownsville once again. And really quick, you're going to see some stuff on the next slide about the assessment. Don't get worried too much, because the assessment told us everything that we needed to work on. Don't think we plan on doing that all in the first week, all right? This is a process where we involve the community in making this change. We involve the leadership at all levels, and we involve you guys. So just to let you know that, don't let that shock you a little bit.
And so as she mentioned, the assessment occurred February of last year. Through observations and staff interviews, Best Friends highlighted some of our top areas and priorities for improvement that will equate to life-saving capacity. So firstly, it was cat life-saving, our adoptions in terms of lowering adoption fees, increasing our adoption hours to the public, and increase adoption kennel utilization. Thirdly, the length of stay and programming for positive outcomes through programs like managed intake and intake diversion. Generally, our medical care process, treatment, specifically heartworm positive cases, sanitation and disease control, and then lastly, our communication and culture. We have some great opportunities to benefit from this embed. Firstly, we'll have a full-time Best Friends staff member that's boots on the ground at our shelter for 12 months, beginning May 1st, again, at no cost to the city of Brownsville. We'll have the ability to tap into Best Friends' talent, their knowledge, their resources, their tools. We will also have access to Best Friend resources across their network, across the nation. And then lastly, we expect to have great operational improvements that will increase, again, the life-saving capacity of our shelter, including improving our reputation, increasing our community engagement, and our support to save as many lives as possible. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Do we have any comments from the commission? I'll just go ahead and start. Paula, thank you so much. I really appreciate you making the trip down and getting some of the things we knew already. But I do look forward to having Best Friends as an ally and partner in this. And I look forward especially to having a team member full-time at the shelter for the next 12 months. So I think that's really going to improve things and really ensure accountability for the findings that you had. And there was a great assessment. I know you did it last year, but I think it was exactly on point to a lot of the things that need to be done. But again, I really appreciate Best Friends getting involved with the city, helping us out. It's a great resource, and I know it's no cost to us. So, I mean, that's really a huge deal because these resources are something we couldn't. So thank you.
I want to personally thank you, Paula, for your involvement in our shelter. I've sat on the board for, the commission appointed me maybe about 1.5 years ago. And before then, I was known as the lady that would just go pay all the adoption fees and try and let all of the animals out of the shelter. So I earned my spot on that board. But I just really want to thank you for taking the time to make sure that our shelter is up to par and that we are working towards those no-kill efforts. When I got to the city of Brownsville, our kill rate was very, very high, and we've worked very hard to get to this point where we are right now. So with your contributions, this is so important that those pets find homes and find families that will love them and give them forever homes. I have a Yorkie that's 18 years old that came from that shelter. So it's a very personal cause to me, and I'm so grateful for your help and efforts.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I do have some best friends, lapel pins.
Oh,
I'm gonna pass
bring
that.
them up.
Awesome.
Please.
Absolutely.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. We look forward to coming back with some work session updates.
Dr. Rodriguez, thank you so much.
Next item, we have board appointments. Consideration and action on resolution number 2023-004A to appoint one task force member of the LGBTQ task force.
Okay, do we have the applicants on there?
Yes, Mayor. So we do have, last month, 6 of the 7 appointments were made. We do have one, which is yours, Mayor. We
Okay.
have 2 applicants on file.
I know I got a lot of recommendations, but nobody actually applied, so I'll just go ahead and make a motion to approve Juliana Alcala.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, it is now 7:21. If you'd like to make a motion to move into executive?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. In executive session. Thank you.
The following items will be considered during executive session. Item number 1, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, and 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development related to Project Rejuvenate. Item number 2, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney related to hotel occupancy tax. Item number 3, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney including contemplated or pending litigation and/or settlement offer related to Culver versus Brownsville. Item number 4, closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, including contemplated or pending litigation and/or settlement offer related to Paul Seals, Port Isabel, Laguna Vista versus Brownsville.
like ultra sensitive.
It is now. It is now 8:22. Next item is possible action on any items as discussed in executive session.
There's going to be no action on any items. We have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
To adjourn? Oh.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
It is now 8:23. Meeting has ended.
Bye-bye.